Have you ever experienced being in a rush in the middle of traffic, and then the traffic light goes red, and then a man approaches your car, and without even asking you, he begins to spray your windshield with water mixed with a little liquid detergent. And then he takes out his squeegee and briskly wipes it clean for you, just in time for the next green light. I know that sometimes we get annoyed by the brashness of people like this. I assure you, there is no need to argue. It takes only a little tap on the glass of the windshield to say, "No, thank you." He does not mind, even if he is halfway through the task already. But before you get rid of the man, just think about it for a while. How many cars can he clean in one traffic interruption? He's not even setting a price for his little unsolicited act of service. Doing this is actually his way of saying to you, "Please, spare me from having to beg. Save my dignity, or whatever is left of it. Please do me the favor of allowing me to clean your car windshield, even if it is obvious to both of us that it does not need any cleaning. No fixed price, sir, ma'am. Any amount would do. Barya lang naman ho. Any loose change that you can spare. At kung ayaw ho ninyo, okay lang. Just tell me immediately so that I can still catch up on one more car behind you before the traffic light goes green. Every second counts. Let me be able to take something home for my family." Well, something like this is happening in today's gospel. It was very common in Galilee back in those times. Beggars would come by the lake shore and wait for the fishermen to come home from a night of fishing to unload their catch. They don't actually behave like beggars. They try to offer some service to the fishermen. They know that the fishermen would usually come to the shore hungry after a whole night of fishing. They know, these beggars, that these men, the fishermen, they do not have the time to make fire in order to grill some of the fish that they have caught right there at the shore. And so, they would shout and make a deal with the returning fishermen. The deal is something to this effect: "Sir, I can prepare for you the charcoal fire for the grilling, so that as soon as you reach shore, I can grill for you some of the fish that you just caught. And then you don't have to wait too long to be able to eat your breakfast. After you eat, just please spare me some fish to take home for my family." Well, that is also his way of saying, "Save my dignity. Let me do this little act of service so that I will not have to beg." And so when the stranger by the shore shouted, "Children, have you caught anything to eat?" And they answered, "No, sir," That was their way of saying no to his unsolicited service, which they knew was a dignified way of begging. Sa Tagalog, mayroon tayong sinasabi kapag wala tayong maibigay sa nagpapalimos. Sinasabi natin, patatawarin po. And that means, please forgive me. It means that in our Filipino culture, we are supposed to be polite even to the beggars. Imagine having to say, forgive me, I have nothing to give to you now, maybe next time. But I could sense that the fishermen were actually annoyed with the stranger. What they probably really wanted to say to him was, come on, give us a break, will you? Don't pester us this early. Do not drive away our luck. But the stranger persisted. He offered yet another form of service. He gave them a tip on which side of the boat they should cast their nets in order to make a catch. Well, obviously, wala ni isa sa kanila na nakakilala kay Jesus. He had to make this second move to give himself away. Para bang binigyan sila talaga ng clue. He does something that would remind them of the very first time that they met him by the same lake shore. And the story is told to us in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verses 1 to 11. I advise you, parang assignment ninyo, read Luke chapter 5, verses 1 to 11, and compare it with our reading today, John chapter 21. It also happened after a night of fruitless fishing, and they also came with empty boats. That was when Jesus passed by for the first time and spoke with Simon Peter, asking to be allowed on Simon's boat so that he could preach to the people who were ready to listen to him by the lake shore. How could Peter forget that time when he was out of the mood because he had failed to bring home some fish? He was just there soaked in the water. He was busy cleaning his nets as Jesus addressed the crowd on the shore and told them one parable after another. Peter probably even pretended na parang hindi siya nakikinig. But he and his companions had already been captivated by the words of this stranger from Nazareth, not realizing that that was going to be the start of an unforgettable friendship. And they could not even refuse him anymore when he suggested that they make a second try. Back now to John 21, when the beloved disciple shouted in recognition, "It is the Lord." It means he was able to get the clue that it was Jesus playing a prank on them. But Simon does not get the joke. He cannot share in the excitement of John. Instead of running to Jesus, he jumps into the water. Para bang ostrich. You know, they say the ostrich buries its head in the sand when there is danger. Sa Tagalog, may expression tayo sa ganyan. Wala na siyang mukhang may haharap sa kanyang kaibigan. It was the late Jesuit composer, Father Eduardo Hontiveros, who wrote that liturgical song, "Jesus na aking kapatid." And I have a feeling that he got his inspiration from our gospel today. I translated the song into English. It says, Jesus, my brother, you came back on earth with a totally different face. You make it hard for us to recognize you. Please open our eyes and get us to realize the truth that you reveal your face to us in the lowly people whom we meet. The gospel apparition stories tell us the kind of character that the human Jesus was. Parang may pagka-prankster si Jesus. And he continues to play a joke on us. Mahilig mag-joke every now and then. Yung bang you try to look for him inside the church, hoping to see him in the majestic images. But he always has a way of making you realize that he is out there in the streets, out there in the marketplace, in the slums, out there in the fields. And he comes unrecognized in circumstances where we least expect to see him. And when we ask him what it was, or when it was that we had met him before, he would smile and probably say with a wink of an eye, whatever you did to the last, the least, and the lost, you did for me.